heart of America, I'm Steve Gruber, your soldier of truth, your tip of the spear, ready to fight for you for the foxhole of freedom. That's what we do here every day, asking the questions you wish somebody would. Well, I will. I'll give you better analysis defending this great nation than anyone else. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Here are 3 big things you need to know right now to start your day. Number 1. Hey, just in time for the weekend, the U.S. government has greenlit the sale of so-called lab-grown meat, or as it will be labeled, cell-cultivated, in some twisted effort to save the world. Yummy. Number 2. Speaking of saving the world, Antarctica just recorded the coldest temperature since 2017. The mercury all the way down to more than 83 degrees below 0 Celsius. Yeah, climate change. Number 3. It was a very big week in Washington and Delaware. There were whistleblowers on Capitol Hill pointing at the Bidens for illegal activity, and in Delaware there was a judge willing to blow holes in a dirty backroom plea agreement with the president's son. There were also a lot of other things going on. For example, Sam Bankman-Fried, remember him? Well, he got a sweetheart deal as the charges against him involving illegal campaign donations of nearly $90 million, almost exclusively to Democrats that money went. Well, those charges were all dropped. And the line they put out there was something about a faulty extradition from the Bahamas. Really? But magically it doesn't impact the rest of the case, that faulty extradition from the Bahamas. How convenient is that? All the crooked Democrats get to keep all of their money from a guy who stole billions from unsophisticated investors, and even some that were. He stole billions of dollars, but that he took off the top and gave to Democrats, well, that's going to be okay. UFOs were also up for discussion on Capitol Hill, where 3 star witnesses testified that the United States has a lot of evidence about non-humans and their machines working in our airspace and maybe elsewhere too. And apparently we have the bodies. And we can talk about that. But today, to start, I want to focus on one that may have not gotten a lot of attention this week. That was the hearing Thursday focusing on the twisted leftist idea that somehow gender is just something you can spin the wheel and change. Spoiler alert, you cannot change your gender. Not with surgery, not with drugs. You can't. But Democrats were focused on trying to crush those called to testify. They were hell-bent on tearing them down and trying to recast parents and Republicans as cold-hearted and evil for not embracing the ideas of transgender ideology and gender-affirming care and a whole bunch of other intellectually void ideas. How about this? We're going to start with Congressman Steve Cohen, good-looking fellow of Tennessee, who absolutely admits by accident that men and women are, in fact, different. He actually admits it in the testimony. He's a sad little man who got totally roasted over a debate of biological men using the women's locker room, you see. Listen to this.
I read Ms. Scanlon's testimony. I wasn't here to hear it, and I think Penn didn't deal with your situation like they could have and should have in putting up some type of different barriers in the women's area of the locker room.
Ms. Scanlon, we just heard my Democrat colleague, Mr. Cohen, say that your circumstance could have been fully resolved if we'd have just had some barriers up in the women's showers. Do you think that that's a sufficient way to resolve what we're dealing with here?
I think by Representative Cohen admitting that we need barriers acknowledges there are biological differences between men and women. And by acknowledging that we need to have private spaces that are separate from each other, why can't we just use the locker rooms that we've always used, the men's and the women's? If you're acknowledging that we need protection and privacy from these men, then you're acknowledging that the locker rooms we've always used are the correct ones.
Yeah, that's what he admitted. Oh, you need barriers. Yeah, it's called a door. It's called a locker room. It's called a restroom. Yeah, we have barriers set up already. We have men's room and men's facilities, women's room and women's facilities. Pretty clever idea that we've had for, well, as long as I've been alive. He really is a sad and very unattractive little man. In fact, I dare say he is ugly, both inside and out, Steve Cohen. That is a face only a mother could love, and that would be questionable. But then the conversation turned to the question of access for transgendered individuals and what locker rooms and bathrooms they should be using, what sports teams they should be playing on. And at this point, it became very clear how parents on the committee felt about this. It's important. Republican Wes Hunt hammered the idea of men and women sharing locker rooms and targeted Democrats for their wacko idea of men and women playing sports against each other as well. He had a spirited response. Listen to this.
Ms. Scanlon, my daughters are going to watch this. because you have become their new hero. And I can assure you that my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old daughters will not change in front of biological men. This is ridiculous. I don't care what party you are a part of. If you think that we are all equal and the same biologically, you've literally lost your mind. And when my 2 daughters work hard in the sport, work hard in their craft to be the best that they can be amongst other women, they will compete against other women. I owe Victoria and Olivia and every other young lady in this country that. If you think I'm wrong, I am not the problem. I can assure you.
Yeah, he is just nailing it. Wes Hunt. Congressman, I believe he's from Texas. It is shocking, isn't it, that we actually have to waste our time to battle these intellectually and morally bankrupt ideas about gender and gender ideology and whether or not you're born in the right body or the wrong body and all such garbage. It's such garbage, and what is truly frightening is that in some states, if parents try to stop the transition of their child, their parental rights can be stripped and their children ripped from their homes by tyrants and thugs and other totally uneducated monsters set by the state to impose the will of the government onto them and their families. This is what George Orwell and Ayn Rand and God warned us about over and over again, and yet the sheep keep flocking together and running full speed over the cliff of abject stupidity. Again, you cannot change your gender or your sex. You can call yourself whatever you want. You can claim you're this, you're that. It does not make it so. But nobody's allowed to deviate from the narrative, no matter how deviant the ideas being foisted upon the rest of us really are. You must follow the rules. You must toe the line and adhere to the dangerous cultist ideas of gender fluidity and other such fanciful fantasies. And if you fail to fall in line, you will be called out, heckled, discredited, canceled, sometimes flat out attacked. Congressman Matt Gaetz gets heckled for standing up for parents. Listen to this.
They want to stand between a parent and a child on these important decisions. And I don't think it's abuse if a parent says, I'm not going to get my child gender blockers. And it's odd to hear you advocate for the law because just moments ago in testimony, you said, and I wrote it down, parents have a fundamental right to make healthcare decisions regarding their children. But if in Washington state today, the parent makes the decision that they're not going to provide that gender-affirming care, what it does is it unlocks for the government a window of time to keep the child away from the parent and to not tell the parent where the kid is. Oh, please, get over yourself. What's terrible is when you have this incongruent desire of the government to restrain the ability of parents to parent. And I can only imagine the terror that a parent must go through not knowing where their child is. So,
And we've got more. We've got more powerful. In fact, we're going to hear from a young woman who transitioned, was butchered under the knife, and then said, my God, what have you done to me? That's straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show.